Welcome back. Today we are going to talk about the Thieaudio Hype 2. And I think the 2 actually refers to the 2 dynamic drivers and the 2 balanced armatures as opposed to a set that you missed or never heard of. I don't think there is a Hype 1, but this is what the 2 looks like, and this one is the blue version. There is a fancy purple version as well, but this is what the blue one looks like, and I think it's mainly just the faceplate is different. I think they both have a bottom half that is the same black as this one. So there you go. If you've actually picked up a Thieaudio set in the past, you'll know pretty much that they are very comfortable and what this one feels like in your hand. I don't think it's all that far from other sets that they've done in the past. Same for the cable. I believe this is a Thieaudio EST cable. Very fancy looking SPC copper cable that they've used in the past on their tri-grids. They've actually sold this one separately as well. And it used to retail for about $80. So I'm not sure that they've included one in the box on a set at this cost before. So a little bit of a treat for me to get my hands on an actual EST cable. Also in the box, a little case, nice bigger size case for those of you who are fans of the cases. So let's kind of jump into it. And again, much like the cable, the graph is one. If you follow Thieaudio, you know they do very fine tuning, and a lot of their tuning, I think, I would say resembles this. Nice bass shelf that covers tons of genres. Very, very nice flat mids to cover, a really nice midsection, which is I think what they're kind of known for. This part, not as much, especially the dual dynamic driver, but very, very nice, well-executed mids, and then a treble region, which is not super boosted at all, but extends quite far. So, yeah, I think as far as resembling, some past Thieaudio sets, I don't think it's all that far from those. I think it's a very nice-looking hybrid, tribrid looking graph that they would have done on in the past, or probably things that they will do in the future as well. So let's kind of jump into it, and we'll do this one a little faster because there is almost nothing wrong with this set. It's a very, very nice set. But I will jump into it right at the top and say what really kind of hit me over the head first was the staging and the immersive stage and the imaging. Very, very clean, sharp imaging and a very immersive 3D-like stage. And you don't find that too often, and I think that's why it's really struck me as different. And I think it's actually why this set is special as opposed to, I think the tuning is great. I think the drivers are great. I think all those things come together. But what actually you hear first is the stage, and then you hear the 2 Sonians, which sound pretty amazing, and then the 2 dynamic drivers. But yeah, what actually sets this set apart from other sets is this combination of this immersive stage, very high quality drivers, 2 dynamic drivers in isobaric configuration, 2 Sonians, and really a play anything tuning. And what I mean by that is this isn't really a preference set. This isn't, I want to put this set on because it does super high quality detail, resolution, great on classical music. Now this is very much a play anything style tuning. You got pop, rock, EDM, classical, jazz. It really can play anything because it has enough bass to cover the popular genres. It has very clean, very lush kind of mids to cover those genres which really need that. And then very extended treble if you're into classical and things that really hit on that side of the frequency graph. So yeah, very much a everyday carry, play anything type of set. You don't find that all that often. And you find it even less often with a really great stage and very high quality driver. So I would say that pretty much is why Hype 2 is a special set. Sound, either you can call it a L or a bass boosted neutral, or you can say this is a Harman with kind of a neutral upper, L shape, bass boosted with a kind of a flat neutral upper, or a bass boosted neutral, which is 3 ways to say basically the same thing, but you end up with a very nice bass boost. Like I said, takes you through most of the popular genres, pop music, rock, EDM. There's more than enough bass for all of those. Very, very nice mids, very nice female vocals, and then very nice extension. So yeah, no matter what you call it, it's a very well tuned set on 4 very nice drivers. And for me, you should really run through all of your test track playlists, and not just Hotel California, but hit the bass ones and the EDM ones and the pop ones and the jazz and the classical. I skipped through a ton of tracks, not because it didn't sound good. It was just because I wanted to hear what those tracks sounded like on this stage, on Sonian drivers, on a dual dynamic driver. It is sort of a unique configuration, especially at this price point. The Sonians have a sound that you don't find every day, especially at this price point. But yeah, I really wanted to hear how this set played back lots of tracks as opposed to skipping them because it didn't handle them or was a genre that's not good on this. It can essentially play anything, but very much Goldilocks levels, not too much, not too little. There's more than enough bass. There's enough treble there. Everything is sort of at this, not safe, but I would call it Goldilocks. It's just not too much and not too little. So it's very hard to nitpick it, but I will attempt to give you a couple nitpicks. And just by looking at the graph, that mid bass tuck, I think a lot of people key in on the 200 hertz where it drops down, and you're going to say, well, male vocals are going to be a little bit thin, not really enough mid bass to carry some genres. And what I'll say is they sort of carry this over enough, but not too much where it would actually affect the mids. So I think Thieaudio has been doing this quite a while. They have really good tuners, and this balance of providing a really nice sub bass, enough carried over into the mid bass, but then dropping it down so you have very clean mids. It takes a lot of experience to pull this off, and they have quite a bit of experience. So yeah, I think you can say it's tucked, and there will be tracks where you can hear it tucked, and all that is true, but in general, I think they did actually a really good job at the sub bass to mid bass to lower mid transition without really affecting the quality of the mids at all. So nitpick, but I do think the benefit outweighs the tuck and keeping the mids clean and unaffected. I think they pulled that off pretty well. But this one is another set with this relaxed treble level, and I've talked about this one before. For you lower volume listeners who are looking for more detail, more texture, more air, again, this value right here, from here through pinna gain all the way through treble, these are not boosted levels. This is sort of neutral at best. So if you don't turn up the volume enough, you don't really hear a whole lot of what's going on out here. It takes, not a lot of volume at all, but you've got to tick the volume up until you hear this come into place. Otherwise, it's going to kind of cascade back into the mids, and the mids aren't going to sound as detailed as they are. You're not going to have enough air. But man, this thing extends out way far. If you have a source that can extend out that far and you can hear out that far, it is going as far as you can hear. And so, but at the same time, like I said, it just takes, a click or two of the volume. But do be aware that if it doesn't sound right, definitely play with the volume. I think that pretty much gets you there. And again, so the mid-bass tuck, that keeps the mids clean. You don't really need a lot of boost out in the treble to be heard. So I think all that actually does work out pretty well, but it does need a little volume to put that neutral treble in place and to really address all the points, the detail and the texture in the air. I think you just need a little bit more volume to hear those fall into place. So the bass, again, like I said, super close to Harman shelf, which is a little heavier than it looks on this one. I think they did a really good job. As I said, it carries over a little bit more than what you're expecting, and it works really well with the two dynamic driver hybrid magic that they got going on here. So 10 dB bass shelf down to 0 dB at 200 hertz. Like I said, it is tucked a little bit, but it doesn't really sound like all sub bass. And like I said, that's the magic here and sort of their experiences. A lot of sets tend to push out all the energy here, and that's what you hear. There's not a ton of this in most of your tracks, but as you get into pop music and you get more energy here in your tracks, this does pick it up better than what you're expecting, considering there's a tuck there. But still a tuck there. People are still going to complain about it no matter what, but I think they did do a pretty good transition here. And I think the key, and I think that is the key here. If the level is raised just enough to transition into the mid bass but not affect the mids, they really hit the right balance of control and fun and quality So you don't need to swap sets, like I said, if you're in a different mood. If you're in a more bassy mood, you don't have to go pick up your bass set. This one has plenty and it sounds quite good. Like I said, 2 dynamic drivers, it actually has pretty good impact. Definitely enough fun, but not too much fun where it affects the quality. You know, as I said, these guys have tuned quite a few sets. They kind of know what they're doing, and they really struck a really nice balance in the bass of giving you a bass shelf that covers lots and lots of genres, but still keeps everything else clean and controlled, and there's no bloat. All those things that you look for on the quality. You know, you can probably say, you know, it's not the most defined just because, again, it has a fun little bit to it. It's still 10 dB. It still has kind of a fun shelf to it in the sub bass, and that isn't as sharp as you would get if you'd really bumped this out a little bit and had a sharper impact. You know, that would sound a little bit different. But yeah, I don't know. I think this all actually works together quite well, and I think with the Sonions especially, I think all those work together with a certain tonal balance that is right. So the mids, you would think that 2 dynamic drivers and the bass is the star here, but it's really the mids and the female vocals. For me, the mids are actually, I like them more than the bass. I think the bass is actually okay. But when it really came down to it, it's just a rare set that you can do actual thumping bass like Enter Sandman, and then pull on and then, you know, listen to ethereal female vocals like Mazzy Stars, Fade Into You. You know, as soon as I heard that, I sort of figured out that that's the sweet spot on this one. And yes, it has a dual dynamic driver and it does cool things there, but when you get into these kind of acoustic, slower female vocals, or even male vocals is kind of okay too, but man, when you hear those female vocals and how much body is here and how these extend out and how the voice is in front, you know, stage-wise in front of the instruments, it all comes together and it sounds really, really nice. And I think better than putting on EDM or some other heavier bass things and trying to impress yourself with the bass. I think stick to the mids. I think volume does play a part there, and make sure that on those quieter tracks that you do turn it up a little to hear the Sonions open up. When the bass level is just a little bit lower, the mid should really be the center of your attention, and the Sonions have that level of natural that's really hard to beat. Again, it's kind of hard to describe why Sonions sound a little different than nulls or other balanced armatures, but they do. And when they're done well, like on a set like Hype 2, they sound very, very natural, much more natural than you're expecting for balanced armatures. And for me, that's sort of everything, because that's really harder to find on other sets. Lots of other sets do bass pretty well. When you get into very nice flat mids with very natural balanced armatures, that's really something unique and special, especially at the price point. So don't miss that because your volume is a little bit low. Like I said, it really needs a little to tick up a little bit. And there's going to be some male vocals and lower mids that sit in the tuck, and I do wish those were a little bit more forward. But then there's tracks like the Rag and Bone Man, Human, the acoustic version of that. You know, it just sounds perfect. It just sits perfectly on this set. Same with Mazzy Star. You know, just hearing those vocals on this set done very, very well, and they just match the signature of the set. Treble, this is another one. The bass is really interesting for 2 dynamic drivers, but the treble is interesting in an 18K way. Like I said, it actually extends way, way out there, and most hybrids tend to either roll this off because the balanced armature doesn't go out that far, or they tend to boost it too much and make it sound too metallic and kind of gives you a timbre problem. So to hear this thing, kind of a relaxed version, very natural level, extend all the way out, you know, as far as you can hear, is actually another little special thing about Hype 2 that I don't think they really talked enough about. But like I said, most hybrids at this price point, they kind of choose to roll it off a little bit, or it's going to cause lots of timbre problems. It's definitely some Sonion magic, and I'm not sure how they really pulled it off. It's special to hear. Relaxed lower treble and the lack of peaks, and it really paves the way to hear all the way out to that 18K and present really about as 3D as a stage as you're going to find at this price point. I'm not sure there's anything below the price point that comes closest to it on imaging and stage. So, and, you know, a lot of that just comes from a very nice set of balanced armatures that they used on this. And like I said, for stage folks, this one should be on your list. Between the extension and the levels, it just presents a very immersive and dimensioned in a way that you don't get on most sets. Max Richter's November is basically a sphere around your head. There's lots of things happening all around you. Or the Smiths, what difference does it really make? No matter what track you give it, it's a really great experience. And again, I kind of go back to my starting point of, it's special in that way because it's got very high quality drivers, a very immersive stage, and just really nice tuning. And all three of those make it a little bit of a standout set at its price point, and probably a little bit over its price point, and certainly well below its price point. So thank you guys again for tuning in, and I will see you next time.